What's up? My name is Daniel Wood. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and these are my Fave 4's. Fave 4 Legend Riders. Number one is going to be Dave Mira, for sure. Dave was so important to BMX, and he'll never be replaced. The amount of talent that he had, the marketability that he had. You know, the video game franchise is very similar to how Tony Hawk grew skateboarding. Dave Mira's freestyle BMX grew BMX. Maybe not to the same extent, but still very, very important for us to have that. And, you know, Dave's a legend to pretty much anybody that you ask this question to, so I think it goes without saying. But, yeah, Dave Mira. Number two, Davey Watson, super sick rider that I started watching when I got into BMX. A lot of really technical street riding, a lot of manuals, manual 360s, hang fives, all kinds of stuff. Very fun to watch, cool style. Number three, Stephen Hamilton. Same deal as with Davey Watson. They were both, you know, riders for Federal back then. Stephen was really creative with his riding. A lot of manuals, big gaps, 360s, 180s. You know, a lot of stuff that you might consider basic, but the way that he made it look was incredible. And fourth would be Dan Lacey, another Federal rider. Dan Lacey with the big 360s, big turndowns on street, big no-handers. Just so much fun to watch, so stylish, and he stomped everything and made it all look good. So yeah. Dave Mira, Davey Watson, Stephen Hamilton, Dan Lacey, those are my Fave 4 legend riders. Favorite 4 current pros. Number one, hands down, Garrett Reynolds, the best street rider on the planet, has been for a long time. He can do everything and make it look good. All of his videos look good because they're all filmed well. I feel like he cares and has a lot of attention to detail that he puts into the projects that he's a part of, which is so important because sometimes people they'll throw any clip out there just because they landed it. But Garrett, you get a sense that he has to have it down to a science. It has to be perfected if you're ever going to see it. So I have a lot of respect for that, and you can't say enough about the guy's talent. His X Games gold medals, it's just ridiculous. So Garrett Reynolds would be the first one. Dan Lacey would be number two, going back to legend riders. I've always loved watching him ride. He's still at it just as hard as he ever was, if not even harder than he used to be. Huge 360s, big turndowns, enjoyable to watch ride a park, which I don't love park riding, but I can watch Dan Lacey ride ramps and have fun watching it. Third, Chase DeHart, the steeziest street rider of all time. The perfect tail whip, the perfect manual 180, the way that he times the tuck on his 180s. He makes the simplest stuff look so good, and people have tried to replicate it, but you can't replicate it. Chase DeHart's just got it. Fourth, another really stylish rider would be Dan Foley. Everything he does just looks perfect. There's hardly ever a mistake you see from him. Everything looks good, smooth. He's got a decent bag of tricks, and the ones that he does, he's got perfected. So he's so much fun to watch. So yeah, Garrett Reynolds, Dan Lacey, Chase DeHart, Dan Foley. Those would be the favorite 4 current pros. My favorite 4 underground, local, amateurs, whatever. This one is the hardest to choose 4 from because it's such a broad spectrum. I have so many friends and so many riders over the years that I've had the pleasure of riding with, or just knowing, period. And I'm very passionate about this one because I love my community and our scene and the guys that have come in and out of it. But if I had to narrow it down to 4, which I do, first I'm going to put Josh Sinecory. Josh is my best friend, my brother. We've had ups and downs since the day that we met, but we've always had fun riding bikes together. And you know, not just about him as a person, but him on a bike too. A very different riding style. You know, he can spin both directions. He can switch his feet whatever way he wants, and you'd never notice the difference because he's so good at it. So he's very technical. He's a powerhouse with big gaps and things like that. Very controlled with his technical riding, with his manuals, and one-footed manuals too, which is something that I've tried to learn for years, and I cannot even dream of doing one as far or as controlled as Josh does. But yeah, Josh Sennaquarrie would be number one for sure. Number two, I'll put Kenny Sorello. Kenny was you know, the funny young kid that kind of showed up in our scene a long time ago, and I watched him grow as a person and as a rider and develop into just a total shredder. One of my favorite people ever to film, because you know, Kenny he'd have these tricks that you probably wouldn't see if we weren't filming. So it was cool when the camera came out, he could bust out something crazy. Very talented rider. A lot of balance. Kenny can manual, nose manual, hang five. He's got the bar spins. He's got the 360s, nollie half cabs. He's the first person I ever saw in person do nollie half cabs down bigger staircases, and that was so much fun to watch and film. Yeah, Kenny he's hilarious. He's fun to be around. He's a hell of a rider, and he's a good friend. So Kenny's number two. Third, Stephen Walker, probably in the running for the most important person in our local scene ever. Stephen has gone out of his way to help anybody that needs it, as long as I can remember. He's always been the guy at the bike shop. He's always been the guy with the know-how to get you helped out. You could talk to him for, you know, advice for anything. He's an open book, and he's funny. You know, he's got a great personality. He kind of lives in the shadows. You don't see him every day. He rides a lot alone, which is fine. But I wish we could see him more often. Stephen, his riding is just so unique, especially compared to anybody else, at least in our scene. A lot of free coaster stuff, sliders. He's pegless too, but still finds a way to do grinds, you know, on his axles. Scares me to death every time I see him do it, but he somehow pulls it off. He used to do this, I don't even know what you would call it, but he would jump off the bike into like a running man and jump back onto the pedals down a set of stairs, and you know, stuff like rolling fakie at a wall and jumping off and kicking the wall and jumping back on. Like, nobody else did that. And Stephen made it look so fucking cool. So yeah, Stephen would be the third. Fourth has got to be Carl Pinkney. Carl is a local legend, and he has been since the day that I met him. He was one of the first older generation riders that I met locally, just by sheer chance out riding street. Ran into him one day with one of his friends, and ever since then I've got the same experience every time I ever saw Carl. He has never wavered. He's always been a great friend, a great person, and his riding is ridiculous. Carl is a rail wizard. He's just a raw street rider. He's like every animal video combined into one. He's got all the grinds. He can ride the jankiest setups and just pull off tricks on them. He gets credit for doing the biggest handrail in Fayetteville. And he's the only one I've seen ride away from it with both feet on the pedals, so that will forever be his. And he's dedicated. Carl doesn't live in town. He lives a little ways out, so he's got to find a way to get to town to even ride bikes in the first place with us. And he would travel down here just solely for a day of filming, and he would give it 100% every time he showed up. And I've seen him bust his ass over and over and over again on that handrail that I mentioned, and he's still just committed to getting it done. And the day that he got it done was huge for me, but especially for him, because it was years worth of work and commitment to something that's dangerous. And And he's not getting paid for it. I'm not getting paid for it, but we do it because we love it. And Carl's one of those guys, he does it because he loves it. I feel like he's never going to stop riding. I hope he doesn't. I hope none of these guys ever stop riding. I want to see them riding until we're all in wheelchairs. But yeah, so Josh Senacore, Kenny Sorello, Stephen Walker, Carl Pinkney, those have to be the four that I would pick that stand out the most. Although I love everybody that's ever been in our scene, but those would be the four, and I think a lot of people would have to agree with me. My favorite all-time spots. Number one is going to be Fayetteville Park. I think everybody that knows me knows that because I could ride there every day and never get tired of it. Not just for what it has as a spot, but what it's provided over the years for, you know, our scene, our friendships, our videos. It's a safe place to ride relatively. You know, we don't get hassled there a lot. There's a lot of variety in the spot, a lot of different things to ride, a lot of opportunity for progression, which is cool. You've got smaller staircases going up to bigger ones, you've got smaller ledges going up to bigger rails, and everything's smooth and taken care of. So Fayetteville Park would be good. I've got a lot of good memories with a lot of good people there. Number two, Greenville. Just for the experience of being there, not necessarily just riding, but getting to see you know, guys ride JC Skate Park, getting to go to the unit once and watch, you know, my friends ride these ramps that I've watched in videos for years was so cool. I left my bike in the car. I'm not a ramp rider, but I love to be there, and to be able to film my friends there was so cool. And like East Carolina University and downtown Greenville and just all the cool spots that you might recognize from some videos being there. So yeah, Greenville would be number two. Number three, this one's a little tricky because it's I don't have a ton of memories there, but it was so cool. But we had this foundation spot we just called The Spot back in the day. I don't know what the other locals called it, but that's what me and my friends called it. But it was just a, you know, just a foundation from an old warehouse or something, and it had a couple different levels, and people made some little quickcrete, you know, quarter pipes and kickers and stuff. People would bring in rails and ledges made from miscellaneous whatever, just to have something to do. There was, you know, ramps made of wood just laying around, and it's all been developed now. It's long gone, but I only have a handful of clips of myself or anybody there, but I feel like I would have to put that in the all-time category, especially because it's gone. That was a really cool place here in Fayetteville. And the fourth all-time spot would be Double Decker Skate Park. That was our only skate park here in Fayetteville for the style of riding that I like to do, which is, you know, just I'm a street rider, so I don't play with quarter pipes, mini ramps, anything like that. Double Decker had a lot of ledges and rails and banks and, you know, fun stuff for me. It drew in a lot of riders from out of town. It was expensive, you know, back then for us as teenagers to go pay double what the skateboarders had to pay to get into the place, but it was really cool to have that, and I have a lot of good memories there. Filmed a lot of great riders there, got some of my personal favorite clips in that skate park, and yeah, so that would be the fourth one. So Fayetteville Park, Greenville, The Spot, I call it, and then Double Decker Skate Park. Those would be my all-time favorite four spots. Favorite four current spots. Number one, this will never change, Fayetteville Park. Too many good memories, so many more opportunities to come up with creative manual lines and stuff there. So Fayetteville Park is number one. Two would be the Holiday Inn Banks. It's just kind of an iconic local spot for us. It was a good middle ground for the Fayetteville and the Hope Mills kids to meet kind of halfway. It has a lot of options for different riding styles, a lot of different takes that a rider can use to approach the spot differently. I've seen ramp riders show up and ride it like it's a big old hip transfer, and I've seen street riders like Stephen Walker come up with really creative free coaster lines there. So Holiday Inn would be 2. Third would be Fayetteville State, primarily the little ledge spot, just a series of 3 raised painted ledges in a little kind of auditorium shape. Very cool looking spot. Looks like it's out of a video game. But I've seen so many cool things done over the years. There's still so much potential there, and it's got some variety. There's some ledges, rails, stairs, gaps, all kinds of stuff just in this little centralized location. So that would be the 3rd. And then the 4th current spot, I'm just going to throw in my neighborhood, Haymont here in Fayetteville. Not one particular spot in general. There's, you know, my high school, there's some elementary schools in the area, all in just this kind of small neighborhood, and a lot of cool little curb spots that I grew up riding. Some very basic stuff, but that's the kind of riding that I like to do. So Haymont would be the 4th. So yeah, Festival Park, Holiday Inn Banks, Fayetteville State Ledges, and Haymont. Those would be my favorite 4 current spots. Favorite 4 travel destinations. 1 would be New York City. You know, spots that I've watched in videos over the years, a lot of them are in that area. I think it'd just be super cool to be there and just to cruise around in the traffic and see some iconic spots, places like the Brooklyn Banks and things like that. New York City would be number 1. 2 for BMX would be Barcelona. I feel like that's like BMX heaven, but I wouldn't even know where to start with a place like that. I'm not a big traveler, but if I had to leave the country and go ride somewhere, I think Barcelona would probably be number 1 outside of the States. 3, I'll say, if we're sticking to BMX, probably Paris, just because one of my favorite videos ever was there, and some of the spots that are in that just look really cool, and I'd like to pedal around and see that area. It just looks really interesting. 4th, it's not really one destination, but it's kind of a concept that me and Lane have. But we want to travel just to all of the small towns in North Carolina and just find little hidden gem spots. You know, anytime we go out of town to go to, you know, go to Charlotte or go to Virginia or go to a NASCAR race or something, we're always looking at all the little towns we drive through, and one day I would like to travel to just as many little small towns as I could, just to find little things that maybe never got ridden or have never been found, or maybe have. I mean, there's no telling, but I think we have a lot of really good riding opportunities in our own state here. So, you know, the way I see it, why would I drive all the way across the world when I could drive 30 minutes down the road and find something that nobody's ever touched with a bike before? So, yeah, so New York City, Barcelona, Paris, and then just small town North Carolina. You know, as many as I could hit in a road trip. Those would be the 4 favorite destination spots. Favorite 4 events / contests / jams, whatever you want to call them. Number 1 is going to be the Rowan Roast. Shout out to David Long. Our scene desperately needed something like that to bring the community together. Once we got a public skate park here, you know, it's been years since Double Decker Skate Park got shut down, and when the city and you know, Terry and the guys from the skate shop got together and made that happen, it gave us a place to meet, a place to hang out, a place to ride, and then, you know, David starting the Rowan Roast gave us a reason to go and all come in together and have an event, you know. And BMX needs that kind of stuff. I mean, I as much as I love riding by myself or with 1 or 2 people, it's so cool to see people come in from different cities, different states, just to come hang out and ride. So that's very crucial to keeping a BMX scene alive, and keeping BMX alive in general is the community. So shout out to David Long for the Row and Roast. That's a staple in our community here. It has to be top of my favorite events. Number 2, I'll say Simple Session is fun to watch. Other side of the world, I'd probably never find myself going there to see it in person, but I love watching the videos. A lot of progression happens there. A lot of riders pushing each other. That's really cool to see. Yeah, just a high level of riding. It's fun to watch. It doesn't relate to me personally, to my style or anything like that, but it's just so cool to see. Third, I don't remember who did it. It might have been Dance Comp. It could have been Source. Could have been just a brand. I don't remember. But anybody that does a series of game of bike videos, I love watching them. I like watching people push each other on setups with trick selection, and watching people learn, and watching people eat shit trying to win a game of bike is so much fun. It's something that you can do anywhere, but to see pros versus pros just do like flat ground game of bike is just so entertaining to me. I do not remember who put on the series, but there was a contest, like a bracket style contest a couple years ago where they did that. So that was really fun. That kind of stands out to me. Fourth is going to be the X Games. So important to BMX and to action sports in general to have the X Games. It needs to be broadcasted to the world that there's communities out there like BMX and skateboarding and snowboarding and everything, where you can watch these athletes in alternative sports do their thing and give the kids something to watch and something to strive for. I think the prestige of an X Games gold medal is huge, and when you see somebody like Garrett Reynolds, for example, get so many of them, it just puts him on a completely different level from all the other riders, and we need that. BMX is a creative outlet. It's not always a competition, but when you see it turn into a competition, it's really cool to watch. And it's positive too. You don't see a lot of hate in the X Games like you see in other sports, where you've got fan bases that are just so conflicted, that are fighting each other and screaming at each other over the internet about what happened in a game or whatever. In BMX and in the X Games, it's all positive. If your favorite rider got beat, so be it. You're not going to be mad at the other guy for beating him. So it's really cool that we have that. So yeah, Row and Roast, Simple Session, Game of Bike video series, and X Games. Those would be my favorite 4 events or contests. Top 4 BMX videos. I'm going to shamelessly self-plug one of my own, because it was a passion project of mine. I got into filming BMX thanks to my buddy Ross, who had the idea that we should start making videos back when we were really young, and always wanted to make like a full-length DVD style video, and we came out with one called DIFR, which was dedicated to Ross, who passed away in 2012. So to have something where we could get our whole scene together and have a project to work on, and the finished product, I mean, I could watch it over and over again. It's just, I have so many good memories tied to it, so many friendships that stemmed from that whole process. Yeah, DIFR would be my favorite video that I've ever made. So I'll throw that into the mix. Second would be Federal Paris. When I got into riding, we were starting to see YouTube become a thing. So I discovered a lot of riders in my early impressionable years just by watching YouTube videos. A lot of lot of animal stuff I was watching, but Federal Paris in particular stuck out to me. Just the music, the riding, the riders, guys like Davey Watson, Dan Lacey were in that video. I could watch it over and over again. I watched it this week. I just love that video. So yeah, Federal Paris would be one. Above Below by Rich Forn has got to be the most visually appealing video that I've ever seen for BMX. Rich Forn is such a talented filmer and, you know, director. I would call him more than just filmer. He can put this project together and take artistic risks and make it look cool. It doesn't look tacky. Some people try to throw a little spin on BMX videos and it looks kind of silly, but when he does it, it looks incredible. Looks like a full production, you know. But yeah, you know, Dan Lacey in that video is just insane. His part, the huge 360s. He does like a 360 to Smith to nose to 3 off this ledge, and just the way that trick all kind of flowed and the way that it was filmed and stuff, it's like jaw-dropping every time I see it. Yeah, Above Below would be number 3. Fourth, Deadline. Deadline is the best BMX video of all time in my eyes. We had a premiere for it at my house when it came out. You know, ordered the DVD off Dan's comp probably and got it and invited everybody over to watch it, and seeing that whole crew and you know, that one's similar. You know, it's like a passion project. I mean, they were a brand for sure, but it wasn't a bike company. It wasn't like you know, they didn't have their restrictions as to what they could put in this video like you would have if you worked for a company. So they had a little more freedom with what went into the video, and it just, I mean, they put so many years of work into that, and the finished product was so good. And Garrett Reynolds, man, a 3-song ender video part, just littered with NBDs and these crazy tricks that you only dream of, especially back then when it came out. You know, once Garrett does something and people see that it's possible, then they start to try it and do it too, which is fine. But Garrett's ender clip in that video, just watching that for the first time was just like, holy shit! Like, you never would have thought of that trick, you know. But the whole video, just the music, the way it was laid out, the riders, the personalities, Deadline was just cool as fuck. I will always love that video. So yeah, DIFR, Federal Paris, Above Below, Deadline, easily my favorite 4 BMX videos of all time. Favorite 4 BMX companies, brands. Number 1 is going to be Kink. I've ridden their frames, their forks, their bars, their cranks, everything that they make. Our bike shop has sold their product for years. I'm very pleased with their customer service and their marketing, their videos. They've always had such a high quality you know, way of doing things. With Daryl Taco, who was another one of my favorite riders and filmers, he always made everything look good, and Kink has just been a you know, a solid brand for a long time, so they'd be number 1 for me. 2, I'm gonna have to say Shadow Conspiracy. They made parts look sick back then. They had a lot of cool designs, a lot of cool colorways and stuff. Especially when we were younger, that was really neat to be able to buy 4 blue pegs, for instance, that matched your stem, that matched your sprocket, all that kind of stuff. I feel like Shadow kind of pushed the envelope a little more with that back then. But primarily for the interlock chain, I have so much faith in that chain compared to others that I will never ride anything different. There's one on my bike right now. There's going to be one after that one comes off. So yeah, Shadow would be number 2. 3, I had to think a bit about this one, but I'm going to say Odyssey. Odyssey has just always made good shit. I mean, plain and simple. I've not always ridden their stuff. I've got some of their wheels on right now, but you know, things like their Thunderbolt cranks and things like that. Good designs that aren't overdone, just quality stuff. And again, with their, you know, their marketing and their presentation of their product, videos like Electronical back in the day, that was one that stood out so much because of the colors that they used, you know, in conjunction with Sunday too. So yeah, I'll put Odyssey as one of the four. And then the fourth, not a parts company, but I'll say ProTech, because of the importance of helmets, going back to concussions. And you know, I don't care if you wear a certified helmet or a non-certified, something, anything's better than nothing. But ProTech, I've put my faith in them for years, and I've knocked my head a couple times and been okay. And I've watched other people too just totally eat it and get right back up because they were wearing a helmet, you know. I can't say enough about the importance of them. Like I said, I wish more people would ride them, but I'll throw ProTech in the mix as one of the more important brands to me. So yeah, Kink, Shadow Conspiracy, Odyssey, ProTech, those would be my favorite 4 BMX companies. Favorite tricks to see. Number one would be a turn down. It's one that I can do one out of every 50 tries if I'm lucky, but I love watching somebody that's got a good turn down. Dan Foley, Dan Lacey, you know, Garrett Reynolds, especially, you know, Garrett throws them in where you least expect them. He'll you know, throw I'll put look backs and turn downs kind of as the same idea, but he'll come out of a grind and do a half cab look back or something out of it, and you never saw it coming. You know, Dan Lacey does these huge turn down to fakie on quarter pipes where he's just completely twisted up and it looks insane. That's a beautiful trick in my eyes. Number two, a good manual 180 from anybody. I love watching people land it for the first time and watching them try to figure it out. I like watching people do them on crazy setups and stuff. You know, Chase DeHart, again, another one of my favorite riders. He the way he snaps them, he pops and then tucks the back of the bike up really nice. And you know, not a lot of people do them like him, but when I see a good manual 180, it just makes me happy. 360s, of course, same with tricks to do, but seeing a nice floated 360 off some stairs, or whether it's over a set of dirt jumps or wherever, just a 360 I think is just timeless. Everybody, you know, whether you ride BMX or not, if somebody does a 360, you're like, nice, that was cool. So yeah, 360. Fourth, lucky grinds. Another one that I have not done very many of, maybe only 2 or 3 ever, but I love the way that trick looks, the way that it hangs down, the way that people can make combos out of it. You know, guys like Nathan Williams and Corey Martinez, watching them do them, they do them down these huge rails or ledges. Kenny Sorello, one of the local guys, he can do them on rails, and he can 180 into them and toothpick out of them. It just looks cool. It's a different looking grind than all the other ones, you know, to me. So I'd put that in the 4. So yeah, turn downs, manual 180s, 360s, and lucky grinds. Those are my favorite 4 tricks to see. Favorite 4 tricks to do. Number 1 is obvious for me, manual. It's one of the first things that I kind of learned hanging out with some skateboarders. We would just start out in a parking lot, and I learned peg manuals first, or rocket manuals. But we would just, you know, try to do X amount of parking spots. We'd have little competitions between me and my buddy Brian to see who could go the furthest. And it's something you can just do anywhere. You can bring a lot of creativity with manual lines, and you're not going to get hurt doing a manual. I mean, I'm sure you could, but it's not a super dangerous thing, which is important to me, especially as I get older. So yeah, manual's the most fun thing you can do on a bike, in my opinion. Number 2, bunny hop 360. It's always just looked cool. A lot of my favorite riders do 360s on these crazy setups, and I just like to do them on simple shit. You know, it's one that I've known how to do a long time. I can pretty much do it on command. It doesn't always look great, but bunny hop 360 would be one of my favorites. Third would be X-ups, just because it's, you know, another thing that I've been doing for quite a while. Low risk. I think they look cool. I love seeing other people do them. People throw them into really cool, you know, combos and stuff. 360 X-ups, X-up grinds, things like that. But I just like to just do a good X-up, whether it's, you know, down some stairs or out of a manual or wherever. I just have fun doing it. Fourth would be foot jam tail whip. Probably one of the more technical tricks that you could learn, because you can't do it. I mean, you can do it anywhere, but if you want to do it on a setup, it's a little more difficult, and I'm not good at that. I just like to do them on flat ground most of the time, but it's an eye catcher. You know, if you run into somebody out riding the street and they're, you know, yelling at you to do a trick or something, or they'll say do a tail whip, you can cheat it and do a foot jam tail whip, and they wouldn't notice the difference. So that's one that I like to do, and it's fun to try to teach people the process of learning how to, you know, step into the tire and kick it around, and then learning to jump from your pedals to your tire, and then learning to catch them, and it's a fun trick. So yeah, manuals, 360s, X-ups, foot jam whips, those would be my favorite 4 tricks to do. Favorite 4 injuries. I'm gonna laugh every time I say it like that. The biggest one for me was a concussion, and I think it needs to be taken seriously for anybody that's had one, not just in BMX, but in any sort of concussion, whether it's a, you know, car accident or just falling down the stairs, whatever, you know. But for me, it was an eye-opener. Of course, I did it just riding a curb with a poorly timed half cab. You know, got bucked off the back of the bike and smacked my head on the pavement, and I know that, but I don't remember it. I have no memory of it happening, but I know how it happened, which scares the shit out of me, not remembering things, and it's kind of screwed with my memory, I feel like, over the years. Thankfully, I've got all these pictures and videos of things that me and my friends did together, because if they didn't exist, then I'd probably forget all this stuff. But it's the reason that I started wearing a helmet. My dad made an ultimatum with me as a teenager. He said, if you're going to keep riding these bikes, you're going to wear a helmet. And I was like, well, I'm not going to give up riding the bike, so helmet it is. And I wish more people would wear them. I understand, you know, I can't control anybody. But I will always suggest that people wear helmets, and I'm guilty of not wearing one every time I step on the bike, but it's very important. So concussion would be the first one. Second, I had a really rough ankle sprain a few years ago on my right ankle, which is, you know, my foot jam foot, my fast plant foot. It's my takeoff foot for saving my ass on a under rotated 180. But yeah, just a sprain. I've never broken a bone, but that sprain took me so long to heal. It was swollen. I lost my mobility. I lost the ability to put body weight on it. It sucked. It made everything tricky. You know, stuff as simple as walking up the stairs to get to my apartment became a nightmare. Going to work and hobbling around in a boot sucked. But you know, again, it was on something stupid, just doing a manual 180 off of a curb into some grass, and just the way that my foot caught the ground wrong, it just twisted it and screwed me all up for the next 8 months. So yeah, that would have to be one of them. Third would be my tailbone. I smacked my tailbone pretty good on a handrail, which is the reason that I don't do handrails, is I got little short stubby legs and I cannot clear a handrail. So there was this rail that was technically a down rail. You know, it wasn't like a staircase necessarily. more of a sidewalk with levels down it. But I got on, did the double peg time and time again, perfectly fine, couldn't quite make it to the end, and then just, you know, didn't bunny hop high enough, something that simple. I missed my back peg and went straight to my tailbone and ran around, you know, holding my backside, thinking that I screwed myself up really good. Took me months to be able to sit down comfortably again. That just sucked. Even just driving home that day, you know, 30-minute drive home from that spot was brutal. I never went to the doctor. You know, not much you can do about a broken tailbone, in my opinion. I don't know that I broke it. I might have, you know, fractured it or something. But even to this day, if I touch it wrong or sit down wrong, I still feel it a little bit. So that sucked, but could be worse. Fourth, like I said, I've never broken a bone, so I don't have a lot of serious injuries. I got a wicked hematoma one time. It took a bar end to the inside of my thigh, and it swelled up like the size of a softball, and turned all kinds of pretty colors. That was gross. I couldn't walk straight for a few weeks, which really sucked because I had to do a lot of walking in that time frame. I couldn't drive right for a while because my legs just didn't move as well as they needed to, because I had this big swollen mass on my thigh. Yeah, that one sucked. Not the most painful thing in the world, but it just made things awkward, and it made for a good picture though. It was a sweet looking injury, I guess, but yeah, I don't want to have that happen again. So yeah, concussion, ankle sprain, tailbone, and then hematoma. Those would be my favorite 4 injuries. Favorite 4 non-BMX hobbies. All time, first one would have to be fishing, primarily bass fishing. Got into that as a little kid with my dad. It was one of the things that we had that we could go do together every weekend. We had a small pond in our backyard that had some fish in it. So just a timeless hobby that I can do the rest of my life is really nice to have. It teaches you kind of the same with BMX, but it teaches you patience. BMX, you know, tricks don't come easily. Sometimes you'll spend weeks, months, years trying to figure something out. It's the same with fishing. You'll spend hours, days, weeks without catching a single fish, but when you get one, sometimes it can make it all worth it. So fishing would be the first. Second would be metal detecting. This is one that Josh Sennacore got me into several years ago, and it takes up so much of my time. It's my old man hobby. It's taught me the importance of history. It's another way to learn patience too, because I spend hours and hours and hours just digging garbage out of the ground, just in hopes of finding one coin or one old button or bullet or what have you. But it's a really interesting hobby. You get to go see a lot of cool historical places. You get to learn a lot of history. You get to find cool stuff. I've accumulated this collection of artifacts and things, and it's just so much fun to share history with people, and to you know, uncover something that hasn't seen the light of day in 200 years. You draw a story to each item that you find. You have to be creative and think, okay, why did this get lost, or who lost this? What's the story behind that? And it makes it a lot of fun. So yeah, metal detecting would be number 2. Number 3, video games. I love Call of Duty. I've been playing that with my buddies since, oh God, I don't even know when we started, but I mean, we used to play Halo when I was a kid. That was the big thing when I was in high school. But I got into playing Call of Duty with my buddy Andy, who also rides. Shout out to Andy. He hooked me up with new games the night they came out, which I'm forever grateful for. but it's just fun to sit around and, you know, forget about the real world and just, you know, have an outlet to be competitive and to talk some shit and just have fun. Also do a lot of racing video games, primarily Forza Motorsport. We do, you know, I've got a whole group of guys that run simulated NASCAR races and stuff like that, and it's very time consuming, but it teaches you how to focus, because I'll sit there for hours trying to make lap time at some track, and it's all for nothing. It's just fun. But yeah, and you know, video games too has introduced me to a lot of good people. It's kind of weird. You get friends that live on the other side of the country, sometimes on the other side of the world, and I've had, you know, a few of my friends that I've met through playing Forza actually fly out to North Carolina. We've gone to NASCAR races together. It's a really cool community. Yeah, and not much more I can say about it. It's just fun. Everybody loves playing video games. And fourth would be NASCAR, watching races, going to races, collecting memorabilia, that kind of stuff. I'm not a stick and ball sports kind of fan, really. I mean, I watch a little bit of college basketball, but that's about it. But NASCAR, you know, I grew up here in the South in a NASCAR family. I grew up in a Dale Earnhardt family, and I turned out a Jeff Gordon fan, so I'm surprised I wasn't disowned. But yeah, that's another thing I'm super passionate about. Everybody that knows me knows that if they want to ride on a Sunday afternoon, they can forget about me showing up, because I'll be watching the race. So yeah, fishing, metal detecting, video games, NASCAR, those are the four things that keep me sane when I'm not riding my bike. Favorite 4 movies or TV shows. I'm not a huge movie person. I don't watch a lot of TV either. I pay for my cable so I can watch NASCAR races, and that's about it. But all time, my favorite movie is probably got to be Anchorman. It's something that me and my buddy TJ watched when we were kids, and just dumb, goofy humor, the kind of stuff that I am drawn to. Sticking with the Will Ferrell theme, Talladega Nights would be number 2, because that draws the parallel from NASCAR into the comedy kind of thing. It's funny, in NASCAR there's like a huge divide between, you know, fans that love that movie and fans that hate that movie. They think it promotes, you know, dumb stereotypes. There's some people that think that it's a comedy, it's supposed to be like that, and I'm in that group. I think it's hilarious. It makes fun of NASCAR fans and drivers for the exact reasons that they need to be made fun of, and I'm fine with that. So Talladega Nights would be number 2. The Office, I watched all the way through multiple times when I was younger. I think it was probably one of the more important shows that I can remember. You know, I'd put it up there with like Seinfeld, for instance, of shows that stick around and have some rewatch value to them. But yeah, The Office would be number 3. Fourth, this one I had to think about a little bit. Top Gear. I love cars. It's not really a hobby of mine, but I love cars. And Top Gear was just the UK version, of course. The American version I couldn't care less about, but Top Gear UK, I watched it so much growing up. It was just, Jeremy Clarkson is just hilarious. The whole concept of the show, going from just basic car reviews and turning into just these huge productions and things like that. It was just so funny to me, so interesting, and I loved seeing when a new episode would come out with a new car that I was really interested to learn about, and it was just funny. I mean, yeah, I love comedy, so that has to go in there too. So yeah, Anchorman, Talladega Nights, The Office, Top Gear. Those would be my favorite 4 movies and TV shows. Favorite 4 bands, artists, whatever. Number 1 all-time favorite band is Breaking Benjamin. I've always, for whatever reason, you know, really related to their music. It's always resonated with me. One of the few bands I've actually gone to see in concert more than once. So I've always loved them. It's just radio rock. It's stuff you can hear when you turn on the radio. It's butt rock, if you want to call it that. I don't care. I like listening to it. I think it's good. All time, I'm gonna have to put Linkin Park. When I was getting into listening to music as a teenager, Linkin Park was huge, and kind of different sounding because they bridged some rock and some rap and some metal, all that kind of stuff together. You know, Chester Bennington will always be a very important figure to rock music or to alternative music or whatever you want to categorize it as. But yeah, I grew up listening to you know, Meteora from Linkin Park came out when I was a teenager. It was one of the first CDs that I ever had. Eventually went back and got into the Hybrid Theory stuff, but all time, I think Linkin Park would definitely be up there. Third, probably Lil Wayne. I don't listen to a lot of rap anymore, but when I was in high school was kind of what I would consider his prime as far as like mainstream success and quality of music, and I listened to it a lot. Some of my friends love him, some of my friends hate him. I don't care. I really enjoyed his music. It was always really clever lyrics. A lot of it was just funny to listen to. Good beats, stuff like that. It was fun to ride to. You wouldn't see a lot of his music used in BMX videos, but I've got a couple videos that I've made over the years where I threw one of his songs in there. So yeah, Lil Wayne would be the third. Fourth, this is tough. I got into, you know, a little bit heavier style metalcore music over the past few years, and there's a lot of bands that stand out. My favorite of all those bands, I would say A Day to Remember would probably be the number one of all of them, just for longevity's sake. A lot of songs that I would consider like classics for my generation. A lot of variety. There's some smoother songs, there's some heavier songs, some stuff you can put on the radio, some stuff you can't. And I've seen them in concert. They kill it live too, and yeah, I just think they're cool. You know, that style of music is not for everybody, but I've kind of grown to like it over the years, and that band in particular opened my eyes to a whole genre that I never paid any attention to, and introduced me to a lot of other good bands that I like now too. So yeah, I'll put them in there. So Breaking Benjamin, Linkin Park, Lil Wayne, A Day to Remember would probably be my favorite four musicians. Future goals. Number one would be owning my own bike shop one day. I like being in the bicycle industry, obviously with BMX, but you know, just our community here is important to me. This is my hometown, so I want to give back and do what I can through bikes to my town, because it's what helped me through growing up, and it's like that for a lot of BMX riders. The bike is what gets you through the tough times, and some of the people that I look up to, example A, Stephen Walker, you know, being the dude at the bike shop that I could go in and talk to that would help you out. Like, I always looked up to him for that, and now I want to be that guy. So you know, I've worked in a bike shop for over a decade. It can be frustrating, it can be fun. It's going to be like that with any career, but I think it's important to have bike shops because we got to keep people riding. So that would be probably the main goal. in the future would be to have my own bike shop. Number 2, this one's real simple. I want to do one more bar spin, just one more. I was never good at them, but when I learned them, I felt so accomplished, and I bent my thumb backwards landing on one and never did one again. And I wish I would have kept doing them, because it'd be cool to be like Vince Immel, where I can just do one on anybody's bike anytime, you know, on command. But I just want to do one more. It's such a, you know, such a common trick. You don't think about how difficult it is, or how easy it is for that matter. I mean, it's like I said, I've done them before, and they are not hard physically, they're hard mentally. For me, taking your foot off or whatever was always my problem. So I'd like to just, now that I'm in my 30s and I don't ride as much as I used to, I think it'd be cool to just do one more bunny hop bar spin. It's a silly goal, but personally I think about it a lot, so I'll throw that in there. Number 3, I'll stick with BMX for this one too. I want to film more. I want to watch our, you know, and this kind of ties in with owning a bike shop as a goal. I would like to continue to have the BMX scene grow as a whole, and I think for that to happen, you have to have a filmer. And I was the filmer for a long time, and I still am, just at a smaller capacity. But I still have a couple of projects that I'm working on now. There's more I want to do. I want to film more of, you know, guys like Steven, guys like Carl that are getting older. I want them to have their last hurrah before they, you know, step off the bike. I want to film more stuff like that. I want to give you know, younger kids the same experience that I had, where you get out and you have a goal of getting a clip, and you've got somebody that's actually there to film it. You know, because filming, it's so much fun, but it sucks being the filmer sometimes, because you don't get to ride. Sometimes I wonder if I would have been a better rider if I would have spent less time holding the camera, but that's not important. It's more important that we had the chance to make all the memories and to document them. To me, that's more important than any trick I could have learned. So yeah, film more BMX would be the 3rd. 4th, this one ties into metal detecting, but I would like to have, I don't know if I would call it like a museum or just a display or website or some sort of documentation or a way that I can share all of the things that I put in so much time to find with the public, with everyone, and be able to tell stories of, you know, places that have come and gone. There's a lot of development going on nowadays. A lot of these places that I like to go digging at will not exist in 5 years, and if nobody has the story behind it, nobody can tell you what used to be there, then it's all lost in time. It's the same with BMX. You know, I spend all these years filming and putting these videos together so that I can have the memories of it. Well, with metal detecting, I spend all this time staring at the ground, digging holes, just so I can find little things that I can tie into a certain location. Because one of my big pet peeves now is development is happening so fast that we have these very interesting historical sites that turn into a mall or a Walmart or just a parking lot or whatever. And there's a lot of places here in Fayetteville that I wish I would have had the opportunity to dig some holes and find some things before they were developed on, and I'll never get that back. So one goal would definitely be to assemble a collection that I can share with the masses of local history and you know, kind of promote the importance of history to people through hands-on, you know, being able to hold something, like I said earlier, that's been, you know, untouched for hundreds of years. It's a cool experience, and I just want to continue to share that. So yeah, bike shop ownership, one more bar spin, BMX videos, or continuing to film BMX videos, and then sharing the history experience through metal detecting. Those would be my four four biggest goals, I think. If I had to narrow it down to four categories, number one would be thanks to God. Religion, you know, is not a huge part of my life, but it's there. I don't care what you believe, what you don't believe. Everybody's got something, but thanks to God, for me personally, for giving me this life and the means to do the things that I love. Two would be family. My mom, my dad, my grandmother, my aunt, all the people in my life from day one that allowed me to be myself, and to help with this expensive hobby that their teenage son picked up, to pay for the hospital bills, to pay for the new pairs of shoes because I refused to ride with brakes, all the little dumb shit that I did over the years that my family put up with, and not just my family, my friends' families too. You know, Josh Sinacori's mom, his grandma, Mark Taylor, they always were there for us. I miss Josh's grandma, Nee. I miss her like crazy. She took care of us. She took care of all of us. You know, family is so important, and having that support group is awesome. So I'm very thankful for my family, and my friends' families too. Shout out to all of them. Third, I'll say the bike shop. The bicycle shop has not only given me a place of employment, but somewhere that I can continue to, you know, try to develop this BMX scene, giving us the means to, you know, when we order parts, it's not my money, it's my boss's money, and sometimes it's a risk. You know, when I started there, we didn't have a lot of BMX stuff, we didn't have a big BMX scene. And as it started to grow, you know, the idea of, okay, we need to keep these parts in stock. We need to start selling bikes. We need to have that. And especially now that we've got a skate park, it's like, it's done so much to help our scene. So shout out to, you know, Ken, Chris, and Marty at the bike shop for you know, forcing me to grow up, for one. When I started there, you know, it was my first job, and I was so shy. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to do anything. I had to learn real quick, and that was really important. So not only just, you know, a place of employment, but a place to grow as a person, and to help grow our BMX and our cycling scene in general is super important to me. So shout out to the bicycle shop. And fourth, last but not least, I'm just gonna say Roulette BMX, our whole crew, our whole scene. Whether you consider yourself a part of that exact crew, it's not a, there's no walls. I mean, it's open to anybody. But you know, from the early days of BMX for me in high school, meeting guys like Ross. You know, Ross Roulette was he was a flatland rider, but he had the idea of beginning to film and document and you know, kind of have this little crew. And Austin Gibson and Josh Sinacori, two of my best friends through BMX and just friendship in general. Shout out to those two. They're a big part of my life, big part of me growing up. They're my brothers. I'll throw Lane in there too. Lane Bradshaw Moats. He was a younger generation rider that came in and coincidentally moved into the house across the street from me, and we've developed this friendship over the years that is incredible. So, you know, our whole crew here has fluctuated so much over the years, but thanks to them, yeah, BMX, I mean, you got to have friends to share it with. I'll throw some more names out there. You know, of course, the guys I mentioned earlier, Steven, Carl, Andy Dean has been a great friend to me and helped me through so many times with BMX and life. Cody Duff, Mike Sheffield, Matt Morse, David Long, Vince Roach, Kenny, the other Vince. I mean, I could name people all day from this scene of just bike riders and so many different walks of life that these guys come from. It's so important to me that I've had the opportunity to be in these people's lives and have them in my life over the years. I am forever grateful for our crew and just, you know, I'll just say BMX as a whole. It's hard to explain to people why, you know, there's 30 grown-ass men out here riding little kids' bikes, but it is what it is. You know, this is our life, this is our family, this is our friendship, and I'm forever grateful. So yeah, I'll sum it up: just God, family, bicycle shop, Roulette BMX, and BMX in general. Shout out to all of them. Those are the 4 things that keep me going. So thank you to BMX.